From the shining domicile that is Pittsburgh Comics, my old mannered comic shop owner, Colin McMahon, transforms into the world's greatest comic book talking TV host. Join us, true believers, for Comics Now!
Hey everybody, welcome to Comics Now for August 2022. So summer is sadly getting closer to its end, which is always awful as you start seeing all the back to school stuff. But comics are still rolling along this summer. Events are still in high gear, lots of new stuff coming out. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. Now here at the store, we're trying to make some more room. We're starting to burst at the seams. So keep an eye out for specials. I'll be posting them online. Different things we're doing to change things up a little bit. So keep an eye out on social media posts and things like that. Now, hopefully things are getting back on track. We've had some delays in books and been a little frustrating. Where's this book? Things are taking a couple months extra to come out. So hopefully the publishers are getting back on track. One point I wanted to make was Marvel, when they sent us the catalog for the books coming out in August, the day it arrived, they told us that 50 some odd of those books are going to be delayed. So some of the stuff I'm talking about might not be out until September or later. So I'm trying not to get your hopes up, but this is the stuff that's supposed to be coming out in August. August, we decided to do a spotlight on Aftershock Comics. They're a newer publisher. They've been putting out a lot of really, really good stuff, and we kind of wanted to shine the spotlight on them. So in August, it's going to be double points on all Aftershock graphic novels. And for book club, one of the books that's coming out from DC in August is The End of Deceased. They're starting the final arc. So we decided to go back to the beginning, and we're going to do, for book club at the end of the month, last Friday, we're going to do Deceased Volume 1. It's a fun zombie tale, but basically, by Tom Taylor and Trevor Hairsine, a zombie-like virus has taken over Earth, affecting hero and human alike. So it was a much better book than I anticipated when they first announced a zombie DC book, because we'd already had that from their competition. But it was really well done. Tom Taylor's on the top of his game, and it was a really fun book. So we'll be doing that. It's going to be the last Friday of the month. So, moving ahead, here's what's coming, and we're going to start with DC Comics for August. First off, we have Batman One Bad Day, the Riddler. This is getting Tom King and Mitch Gerads back together, and they're doing a series of one-shots. The Dark Knight's greatest villains get their greatest series yet. The Riddler, Two-Face, the Penguin, Mr. Freeze, Catwoman, Bane, Clayface, and Ra's al Ghul, Batman's most iconic villains, are all given 64-page prestige format specials that show why they are the greatest villains in all of comics. We begin with Batman One Bad Day, the Riddler. Tom King and Mitch Gerads reunite to dive deep into the mind of Batman's most intellectual foe, the Riddler. The Riddler has killed a man in broad daylight for seemingly no reason, but there's always a reason. The Riddler is always playing a game. There are always rules. Batman will reach his wit's end trying to figure out the Riddler's true motivation in this epic psychological thriller. We also have Batman Dear Detective. This is by Lee Bermejo. What happens when a comics art powerhouse meets one of the greatest, most exciting heroes of all time? One part prestige art book, one part compelling noir tale. This one-of-a-kind edition collects some of Lee Bermejo's most jaw-dropping Batman covers, woven together to tell a story that strikes right at the heart of the Dark Knight's never-ending crusade. Sword of Azrael. Azrael has come back. In Dark Knight of the Soul, the Angel of St. Dumas' faith is challenged. This issue collects the critically acclaimed three-part story that ran in the pages of Batman Urban Legends. Azrael has returned to Gotham City after a long time away, unsure of his purpose, and having his faith constantly challenged by demonic developments in the city. The arrival of the new antagonist, the Poor Fellow, will change Azrael's future forever. And then we're also getting a new miniseries spinning out of this, just Sword of Azrael. The Warrior Angel of St. Dumas returns. John Paul Valley does not want to be Azrael ever again. All it has brought him is pain, violence, and misery. He has sequestered himself away at a monastery in Europe to find peace. But when a young woman who claims to have the same system programming that made Jean-Paul into Azrael arrives at the monastery, he won't have a choice but to don his violent mantle of Azrael once more to protect her from the deadly assassins who wish her harm. Then we have Deceased, War of the Undead Gods. What began as a battle for Earth has become a war for the galaxy as the epic final chapter in the massive Deceased franchise is here. The emergence of a reborn, undead Darkseid in Deceased Dead Planet sets the stage for the most devastating conflict yet for Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. As the anti-life equation spreads into the cosmos, the survivors of Earth prepare for the coming apocalypse and realize their only hope could lie in the most powerful surviving hero from the first Deceased series. So that's why we're doing the Deceased as book club. Then we get into their big events. Dark Crisis, number 3. The Battle of the Emerald Army has begun. Hal Jordan has launched an all-out war on Pariah and the Dark Army to avenge his fallen Justice League teammates. But how can one man stand in the way of the Great Darkness? Meanwhile, back on Earth, Titan's Tower has burned and Deathstroke's army has continued its scorched earth march across the planet. To stop Slade Wilson, the young heroes of the DCU might have no other choice than to turn to the brutal tactics of Black Adam. Also getting Dark Crisis, Worlds Without a Justice League Green Lantern special. When Pariah and his forces of the Great Darkness laid waste to the most powerful superheroes of all time, all hope was lost. But the spirit of the Justice League can never truly die. John Stewart takes flight to defend his planet as the Emerald Knight of Justice, alongside allies Red Hood and the Blind Prophet Kyle Rayner. Plus, Hawkgirl takes to the skies in her own unique world. We have a couple facsimile editions that we haven't seen a lot from DC. We're getting Sandman number 1 to tie in with the new show on Netflix, and we're also getting Detective Comics 27, which was the first appearance of some bat guy. Now, Harley is approaching her 30th anniversary, so Harley Quinn has gone weekly and with the series. One small step for the Gotham villains, one giant leap for clown kind. That's right, this fashionably vocal clown is headed to space. Turns out there's some old experiment left in the JLA moon base, and Luke Fox has put together a team of former villains to help clean up the mess. Sending a bunch of villains to the moon? What could go right? Join me, Killer Frost, Bronze Tiger, Solomon Grundy, and more as we learn to moonwalk and put the X in Task Force XX. She also has a 2022 annual coming out this month, and the animated series is getting a new mini-series, The Real Sidekicks of Gotham. We have a Flash annual. It's been a wild time for Wally West and Linda Park West. Their children are regaining their powers, Wally is bouncing between realms, and Linda is dealing with a mysterious power surge. Now, as Linda begins doing research for her upcoming book, Wally comes along for some quality time, and the couple end up on an adventure neither expected. Wonder Girl's getting an annual. Her series ended, and now they're tying more into her. After an unforgettable first visit to Themyscira, Yara Flor has been crowned Wonder Girl, and her tribe accepted into the Amazon Sisterhood. So what now? The jungles of Brazil beckon our heroes home, just in time for some new adventures. Olympus Rebirth is a new series. After years of bitter and violent conflict, the great pantheon of gods stands united to welcome their latest goddess, Hippolyta of Themyscira. Due to her heroic efforts in the mortal realm, the former queen has earned her rightful place among the gods, and plans to use her newfound powers to take care of her Amazon sisters from beyond. Little does she know, some of the gods are wary of the new future Hippolyta brings, and will do just about anything to stop it. We also have a new champion of Shazam. This is drawn by Doc Shaner, who absolutely adores Shazam, so it's going to be fantastic to see him on a new Shazam book. Mary Bromfeld has always struggled to determine who she is outside her family. Kind of hard to do when you're all superheroes. Now, after Billy Batson's heroic sacrifice, the power of Shazam has vanished, and she's been left powerless. Most heroes would be distraught, but not Mary. It's finally time for a voyage of self-discovery as she prepares for her freshman year of college and a civilian life. But nothing is ever truly normal for this young hero, because she's just been chosen as the new champion of Shazam. Will she embrace the power, or will it die along with this world's hope of survival against the mysterious magical forces waiting to take control? Tales of the Human Target. The Human Target's been a real neat book. Tom King and Greg Smallwood, but Greg Smallwood needed a little break to get caught up, and so they're doing a one-shot. Building on the most critically acclaimed series of the year, Tom King and 4 of comics' top artists tell tales of what happened before Chance drank Luther's poison. Chance teams up with fan-favorite members of the Justice League International in 4 connecting mysteries that will lead them to the fateful day when one of them will kill the human target. And then we're continuing the Black Adam lead up to the movie and introducing the characters that are going to be in the movie. So now we have Black Adam, the Justice Society files Cyclone. When she was young, Maxine Hunkel dreamed of flying with the Justice Society. Now she finally has the powers and the opportunity, but will she say yes? So now moving on to Marvel Comics. Coming in August from Marvel, hopefully, we're continuing with Axe Judgment Day, Axe standing for Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals. The wicked will be put to death as the world shakes. An unlikely group of heroes and less than heroes gather to find a peaceful solution. Sadly, the best laid plans of man, mutant and eternal, often go awry. We also have Axe Death to the Mutants. The mutants are deviants. Eternals are coded to correct excess deviation. The mutants are eternal. Mars colonizers, ever spreading. Eternals know what they should do. Our heroes don't want to, but can they resist the murderous designs coded into their body as surely as any sentinel? And if they can't, can anyone survive the coming judgment? We also have X-Men Red tying in. No one who is not an Omega-level mutant has ever taken one of the 9 seats of the Great Ring. Together they are the greatest power Arakko has ever known, and it's 9 against 1. So if the 9 are losing, what does that say about the 1? Judgment Day has come to the Red Planet, and it's Arakko's greatest test since the X of Swords. Other books tying in are X-Force 30, X-Men 13, and Immortal X-Men 5. We're also getting Amazing Fantasy 1000, number seemingly out of nowhere, but it's going to be a big celebration of the anniversary of Amazing Fantasy 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man, with a bunch of stories by different creators. We also have a new Ultraman book coming, The Mystery of the Ultra 7, for the Ultraman fans. Edge of Spider-Verse. Now, the first Edge of Spider-Verse series introduced Spider-Gwen. That was a huge hit and everybody loved. So they're doing another one. This is wrapping up the Spider-Verse. In theory, they will never have any more Spider-Verse titles, but this is the new one. The leading edge of the Spider-Verse brought you Spider-Gwen and Penny Parker. This final edge will introduce you to some of the most important characters in the future of the Spider-Verse, but it will also slice the final strands of the web. We also have giant-sized Gwen Stacy. This was fun. This was a COVID casualty where they only put out the first 3 issues of the miniseries. So now they're finally printing the last 2 issues and they're putting it all together in one big giant-size Gwen Stacy book. Damage Control. After the mega-powered battles and Hulk-level catastrophes, Damage Control is always there to clean up the mess and get things back to normal. But Damage Control is much more than a glorified cleanup crew. And this new series will pull back the curtain and reveal the secret inner workings that were previously only available to people with clearance level 8. And we'll witness all of this through the eyes of Gus, a fresh-faced, eager newcomer to the company who has no idea how chaotic his life is about to become. Ghost Rider, Vengeance Forever, celebrating 50 years of vengeance. Johnny Blaze, still reeling from his time in Hayden's Falls, seeks the counsel of a seer named Necro the Tattooist, who uses his needle to bring dark truths to the surface. What follows is not only a wild tour through Ghost Rider's lost history, but also a warning about the future and the examination of the troubling weight of legacy. Alien is back with a new number 1. New creative team, so they decided to restart it with a new number 1. Man Machine and the most terrifying creature in the universe. It's an express elevator to hell, and you're gonna want to be on it. A small colony of synths have settled in secret on a backwater moon. When a company of United Systems soldiers comes to them for help retrieving biotechnology on a hostile planet, that could be the key to saving humanity. The synths must decide whether the prospect of peace between man and machine is worth the risk of betrayal. So, now on to the other guys. Starting with Image. Image has a lot of new number 1s coming. The Last Shadowhawk 30th Anniversary Special. If you're a Shadowhawk fan, you're not going to want to miss this. In the not-too-distant future, the world will be just as it is today, only worse. Evil has permitted the very fabric of society, from the halls of government to the darkened alleyways. Will the heroes who once defended the downtrodden fail them now? Will a new generation rise, inspired by the last of the old? Who will be the last Shadowhawk? We have Love Everlasting, this is by Tom King. Little twist on the romance genre. Joan Peterson discovers she is trapped in an endless, terrifying cycle of romance. A problem to be solved, a man to marry, and every time she falls in love, she's torn from her world and thrust into another teary saga. Old Dog is a new one from Declan Shalvey. Jack Lynch was a once promising CIA operative. On the eve of retirement, looking back at a failed career, he is tasked with one final mission that goes horribly wrong. He wakes years later to a changed world and deeper changes within him. When a shadow group offers Lynch a second chance at a life of adventure, he's paired with the last person he could ever imagine. In order to adjust, this old dog will have to learn some new tricks. 20th Century Men, number 1. At the end of the 20th century, superheroes, geniuses, madmen, and activists rushed towards World War III. A Soviet iron hero, a superpowered American president, an insane cyborg soldier, an Afghan woman hell-bent on building a better life for her people. These strange yet familiar beings collide in a story that mixes history, politics, and comic book mythology into something totally new. Welcome to 20th Century Men, where the edges of our reality and fiction touch, overlap, and then explode. We have The Dead Lucky. San Francisco is changing. Tech Consortium Morrow is building the city of the future with peacekeeper robots looming on every corner. Wherever Morrow isn't, the Salvation Gang is. Bibiana Lopez Yang is changing too. She came back from Afghanistan with PTSD and the ability to control electrical currents. If she can hold it together, she might be the hero San Francisco needs. But against an enemy this big, it isn't enough to be good. She'll have to be lucky. The Deadliest Bouquet. Jasmine Hawthorne is a hard-edged Nazi hunter who trained her children well in the art of espionage. But in 1998, when her complicated past finally catches up with her, it's up to her 3 estranged daughters, Rose, Poppy, and Violet, to solve their mother's murder, if they can avoid killing each other in the process. So I have Golden Rage. In a world where older women who've been deemed useless to society are abandoned on an island, Golden Rage documents their golden years of making friends, baking dessert, and fighting to the death. It's Battle Royale meets the Golden Girls. Brigade number 1 gets a remastered edition where new artists redraw the issue because it's a classic Image book. And then my favorite book coming out from Image in August is Shirtless Bear Fighter Volume 2. Shirtless Bear Fighter 1 was one of my favorite books that year. Finally, the man, the myth, the legend, Shirtless Bear Fighter returns to the War on Bearer in a wild new action comedy with higher stakes, new characters, and all the heart and hilarity you expect. This time, Shirtless' search for his true origin sets him on a cosmic collision course with the bear god, Ursa Major. Okay, now coming out from Boom, they return to Wind, which is James Tynion's series. Wind, the Throne in the Sky. The Wind saga continues. The land of Vesarial has grown darker and more dangerous as tensions between human and fairy realms threaten to erupt into all-out war. Could Wind be the only hope for the peace? And what will his destiny be if he truly is one of the legendary Winged Ones? Power Rangers is rolling to issue 100. And so we'll bring us Power Rangers Unlimited, the Death Ranger. The legendary Omega Rangers defended the universe from evil thousands of years ago. The 6 of them using their elemental powers to protect others from sinister forces. But that all changed when one key member turned on the other, seduced by the death-defying powers of the Ranger's greatest foe. How does this Ranger connect to what's locked in the mysterious Omega Vault in Safe Haven, so many millennia later, as everything converges to the highly anticipated Charge to 100? Firefly is giving us a 20th anniversary special with 2 tales, one of Firefly's past and one of its possible futures. Now on to Dark Horse. Star Wars Hyperspace Stories. The license for the animated and the All Ages line have moved from IDW to Dark Horse, and this is their first series. Now All Ages Adventures from throughout the galaxy. When the members of a Republic mission led by Senator Padme Amidala are abducted by the ruthless separatist General Grievous, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi jump to the rescue, but the operation quickly goes awry, and the Jedi find themselves cut off and surrounded by an army of battle droids. We also have a new hardcover Star Wars Tales from the Rancor Pit, which is a collection of a bunch of new, like, horror-ish Star Wars tales. We have Minor Threats. This is a new one co-written by Patton Oswalt. It's hard out there for a supervillain. Not the world conquerors, chaos engines, or arch nemeses, but the little guys, the ones who put on uniforms, knock over jewelry stores, and get tied to poles. And things are about to get worse. The psychotic Stickman has murdered Kid Dusk, sidekick to Twilight City's premier crime fighter, the Insomniac. His teammates are tearing the city apart, turning it into a police state, desperate to capture Stickman and stop the Insomniac from crossing that final line he will never come back from. Caught in the middle of the small-time C-list villains, finding it impossible to walk down the street without being harassed by these heroes. With a bounty on Stickman's head, former villain Playtime decides to assemble a ragtime team of villains to take down the Stickman and kill him themselves. Survival Street. After an unbridled wave of corporations take over America, the country is left completely deregulated and effectively carved up into feudal states where billionaires and businessmen make their own laws. Among the wreckage, mass privatization shuts down public broadcasting, forcing all the beloved edutainers out on the down and dirty streets. One group of them stick together, determined to help kids across the country to do it by becoming an A-Team-esque band of mercenaries fighting and educating kids in the crumbling corporate war zone of New Best America. We have a new Frankenstein book. This is by Mike Mignola. Frankenstein New World. Safely tucked away inside the hollow earth where humanity survived after Ragnarok, precocious young Elijah receives visions of a new darkness taking root on the surface. Defying her elders, Elijah awakens the timeless oracle once known as Frankenstein to investigate the warnings and perhaps even explore the new world above. And Parasomnia returns. This is a series by Cullen Bunn, The Dreaming God. As the hunt for his missing son continues, our hero shifts worlds from the nightmarish Lovecraftian dreamscape to a cyberpunk metropolis where a ruthless cult continues to plague him, and reality and fantasy continue to blur. Dynamite has some new ones coming out in August. We have a new James Bond book, 007. 007 is back in action after a high-stakes rescue mission is mysteriously, violently sabotaged. James Bond's future at MI6 hangs in the balance. As he awaits his fate, Bond is urgently contacted by an old flame and mentor, Gwendolyn Gann, formerly Agent 003, who warns Bond of an existential threat to England and the global balance of power. But before they can meet, 003 turns up dead, sending Bond on the most personal mission of his career, finding Gwendolyn Gann's killers and expose the shadowy organization known only as the Meridian. Lady Hell is back in a new series. She is the very personification of death, or at least she was. When we last saw Lady Hell, she was paying the price for messing with the half-demon Purgatory. Now deposed, Lady Hell must find a way to seize back her throne. There's just one problem. She no longer has the power to do much more than exist. Meanwhile, what happens to the world when death is no longer a fact of life? It ain't pretty. Evil Ernie is getting a 30th anniversary facsimile edition. 30 years of Evil Ernie. Who knew? And then we have a bunch of fairy tale one-shots. We're starting Red Sonja fairy tales. Once upon a time, a handful of magic beans fell to the ground and upgrew a towering beanstalk that reached above the clouds. Those brave enough to scale the beanstalk would find at its top a hungry giant with a taste for human bones. But his hunger will not be sated when he is visited by a she-devil with a sword. Dejah Thoris fairy tale. Once upon a time, a queen most jealous sought to destroy any woman fairer than she. And so a beautiful woman stuck out in the wilderness, desperate to evade the queen's envious wrath. The beauty would find allies in the wild unlike any she'd ever seen before. And she made plans to return to the queen and lay claim to the planet of Barsoom. Vampirella fairy tale. Once upon a time, there was a cottage deep within the forest while an elder lived, eagerly awaiting the arrival of her granddaughter with wine and cake, not knowing of the horrid fanged beast that stalks the forest, seeking easy prey. But little did fanged beast realize that the granddaughter has fangs of her own. Now, a new one from Ablaze, which is one of the newer companies doing mostly European books, but this one's called Els. Elle is just another teenage girl most of the time. Bubbly and good-natured, she wastes no time making friends at her first day at her new school. But Elle has a secret. She hasn't come alone. She's brought with her a colorful mix of personalities, which come out when she least expects it. Abrams has a new one that's really been anticipated. It's Fantastic Four Full Circle graphic novel. This is written and drawn by, or painted by, Alex Ross. And just interesting, it's not by Marvel, but new Fantastic Four and new Alex Ross interiors. Everybody's looking forward to this one. It's a rainy night in Manhattan. Not a creature is stirring except for Ben Grimm. When an intruder suddenly appears inside the Baxter Building, the Fantastic Four find themselves surrounded by a swarm of invading parasites. These carrion creatures composed of negative energy come to Earth using a human host as a delivery system. But for what purpose? The Fantastic Four have no choice but to journey into the negative zone, an alien universe composed entirely of antimatter, risking not just their own lives, but the fate of the cosmos. Abstract Studios is Terry Moore's, like he did Strangers in Paradise, and he has a new one called Parker Girls. When Annie Graham's lifeless body washes up on Venice Beach, the nation mourns the loss of a popular actress. Police suspect her death was no accident, but Graham's husband, billionaire Zachary Lott, he has the best lawyers money can buy, and the investigation stalls. That's when Tammy Baker decides to take matters into her own hands and enlists 3 of her finest Parker Girl operatives to bring the Lott empire down, one shocking scandal at a time. Now on to Aftershock, our company of the month. Jimmy's Little Bastards by Garth Ennis and Russ Braun, team who brought you The Boys. After the shattering events of the last adventure, Jimmy is on an extended leave from British intelligence, sliding slowly into middle age with carpet slippers, tragic sweater, and a cup of cocoa to watch. The formerly sexist super spy is even re-evaluating his attitude to women. His daughter Nancy is taking up the slack in fine style, cutting a bloody swath through the Regent Rogues gallery. But a mysterious message starts Jimmy looking into his family's murky past, where he finds a clue to a strange and deadly new danger. We also have Samurai Doggy. During the Fourth War of the Sun, a puppy experienced an irreparable trauma. His mother is brutally murdered, and his 8 brothers, still puppies, were kidnapped by a mysterious man. To save them, Doggy fought bravely against the terrible killer, but all his efforts were in vain and he was left for dead. What nobody imagined was that a technological vulture was scavenging the region for corpses would be the one to rescue the dying dog from death's scythe. Now Doggy has become Samurai Doggy, and his only goal is to quench his thirst for revenge. There's one called The Vineyard. The Vineyard is a family-owned winery that sows and reaps by the blessing of the great god of wine and revelry, Dionysus. However, the vine's family patron god requires complete devotion in the form of 4 sacrificial killings a year before each harvest. That's been done in unfettered obedience. But all of that changed when the family patriarch was in a horrible accident that left him paralyzed and in a wheelchair. Now the sacrificial and murderous duties of the Vines family have fallen to the wife. With harvest season fast approaching and the family short of their annual sacrificial killings, Marantha's struggle with her conscience puts all of her family in jeopardy. Archie has a new one, Jinx Grimm Fairy Tales. Teen Jinx Holiday is Riverdale's go-to babysitter. Often unruly kids that she watches over always change, seemingly for the better. The key to her success? Her book of unique fairy tales, all of which tell a moralistic story, usually grim, gruesome ones, that frighten the children, with Jinx as the star of each and every one. What sinister, serious lessons will she teach her wards? AWA, who just won an Eisner Award for Mark Russell's Not All Robots, has a new one. Sacrament, this is by Peter Milligan. The Exorcist meets Alien in this sci-fi horror story. In the year 3000, mankind abandoned Earth and fled into outer space. Now a disgraced priest, called into action to perform an exorcism on a remote space colony, is about to discover that no matter how far you run, you can't escape your demons, and the devil is, in fact, real. Behemoth has one called Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a video game book telling backstory. Black Caravan has one called Phantasmagoria, which I thought was just perfect title. In Victorian London, an intruder from the outer has been summoned, leaving behind a series of gruesome killings. The mysterious Professor Hawk helps the possessed Jane Grantley get rid of the creature. Hawk is an old, powerful wizard, but he's not the only wizard in London, and the others may not be on his side. IDW has a new Star Trek one, Star Trek Picard Stargazer. embark on a never-before-seen journey set between seasons 2 and 3 of the Paramount Plus series. When the USS Stargazer goes missing near a planet from his past, Admiral Jean-Luc Picard enlists Seven's help to unravel the mystery and save the Stargazer crew. We also have a one-shot, The Trill. Someone is following Vanna, the research student and ex-applicant to the Trill Symbiote Initiate program, after a life-changing event on a joint Trill Federation science expedition. Delve into the world of the Trill in the suspenseful tale of tradition, independence, and survival. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle has a new series based on the Armageddon game. And we also got a Best of Baxter Stockman issue. New one from them is True Cult. Marty Tarantella has been flipping burgers for 15 years. He has no kids, no hobbies, no love interests, and essentially no life. But what he does have is a plan to change everything. Years of watching the daily rhythms of the neighboring stores has given Marty the idea for a perfect heist. But when he accidentally steals a supernatural weapon from a cult full of violent lunatics, the resulting satanic panic will be way above his minimum wage pay grade. Nothing can prepare you for the coming of True Cult, a deliciously horrifying and hilarious new series. A new one from Oni Press, Action Journalism. As a sinister alien armada looms over Earth, New Arcadia's favorite intrepid reporter, Kate Kelly, has just 2 hours to infiltrate the fleet, uncover their most scandalous secrets, land the interview of the century, and avert interstellar war. And not necessarily in that order. Scout has a couple new ones. Forever Forward. When brilliant young scientist Dr. Lewis Moody accidentally launches himself, his secret longtime crush, and 3 best friends 33 years into the future with his unproven quantum time machine, they find a mysterious message from their future selves. The only way back is forward. Now, as they jump again and again through strange future times, will they one day find the technology to time travel back, or are they doomed to hopelessly travel forward forever? They have one called Cold, a modern-day Ebenezer Scrooge-esque tale. A cruel old man named Homer goes fishing with his dog. The man is desperate to resolve the guilt that burns deep down in his conscience. Homer went fishing for forgiveness, but all he caught was hell. Titan has a new one, Gun Honey, Blood for Blood. This was a real good-selling book, the first run. With weapons expert Joanna Tan, the legendary Gun Honey off the grid, recuperating from her last job, a vengeful rival takes her place and frames Joanna for murder. On the run from Malaysia to Milan, from Montana to Monaco, Joanna catch up with her ruthless enemy, or will she catch a bullet first? Vault has a couple new ones. End After End. Life is nothing if not a series of endings. School jobs, friendships, love. Walter Williams' death was fast and unexpected. His was an unremarkable life, so how is it that his story continues as cannon fodder in an endless war waged against an insatiable darkness hell-bent on consuming all existence? And Revealer, which is a new movie coming out, and this is a tie-in. Learn more about the characters, the lore, the Revealer's adult bookstore, and what waits on the other side of the biblical apocalypse. So that's all we have. Not all we have. That's some of the new stuff that's going to be coming out in August. All the other stories are continuing. We've got lots of new stuff coming. Lots of good stuff. It just started this month, so lots of neat stuff to be seen. Aftershock is our focus, so check out our Aftershock display and see if anything catches your eye. At the end of the month, we're doing Deceased Volume 1 for book club. So, if you need to reach me, the website's pittsburghcomics.com. Facebook is Pittsburgh Comics. Twitter and Instagram are PGH Comics. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for Comic Previews Theater. See ya.
Stand back. People of Chinatown, the reign of Moro has ended. The Salvation Gang has arrived.
Do something! Protect and serve! At least get me out of here!
How? They'll surround the car in seconds! Dispatch, this is Officer Garcia. I have a code 3406 requesting immediate backup. What was that? Watch out!
Oops! Sorry about that, officer. Ghost, let's move.
Roger, Roger.
Go! Go! Get out of the street!
What is that thing?
Salvation Gang, please retreat. This is not a drill. You must cease and desist.
Don't worry.
This is just a show of force. Just need to convince these wannabe gangsters we don't need them.
Looks like Morrow's got a new bot. Let's make him feel welcome.
They think we're Morrow? That's insulting.